Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be doing another generator repair. So this generator was given to me to fix as it doesn't start anymore. So I'm going to take a look and see if we can get it running. So this is the generator. It's a little 850 watt unit that's it's got a 2-stroke engine. So there's the information with the model number, etc. So first thing I'm going to do is put some fuel in the tank and see what happens when I try and start it. So I've got a very small amount of 2-stroke fuel left over, so I'm just going to pop that in the tank. Hopefully it's enough to give it a little test. Right, so it looks like we got an engine run switch here, so I'm going to switch that to on, and it looks like yeah, I can't quite tell which is open and which is closed on the choke here, so I'm going to guess that that's the choke on. And we've got a little fuel tap around here as well, so I'm just going to, in fact that's already set to on, so that's fine. There's no primer as far as I can see, so I think it's probably a kind of self-priming arrangement. So yeah, let's give the starter a pull and see what happens. Okay, so there's no signs of any life at the moment. So I think what I'll do next is I'm just going to take off the fuel line from the carburettor and just confirm that we've actually got fuel there, because there's such a small amount of fuel in the tank, I don't want that to be holding us up. So you can just see the fuel tap here, and the fuel line just comes down here and then it connects onto the carburettor down there. So I should be able to get some pliers on there, or in fact I can just do it by hand. Excuse the very dirty fingers, I've just been working on my car, so and I thought whilst I'm still in the garage I may as well have a look at this. Might be easier to take off either this cover or the side cover here. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm going to take off this cover, which is covering the pull starter, but that should give me better access to the fuel hose there. Okay, so set the starter to one side, and we haven't really got much better access, to be honest, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the fuel tap, and then I'm going to try pulling this hose off, and then once I've got it over a suitable container I'll open the fuel tap again and see if anything comes out. May have to get some pliers in there, so I'm trying to attack it from underneath now. It's difficult to see, but I'm just going to try and pry the fuel line off with my pliers. Sort of using it as a crowbar, if you like. Okay, so the fuel line is now free, and that's also freed up the fuel tank. So I guess the fuel tank was just kind of being held in place by the fuel line, which is strange, but there you go. So there's the fuel line now able to be accessed, and I'm just going to open the fuel tap and see what happens. Okay, so nothing's coming out, so I suspect that we probably need to fill up the tank with some more petrol. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and I've got to pop out anyway, so while I'm out I'll just fill up my jerry can so that we can put some more fuel in the tank, which is probably a good place to start. Right, okay, so I've just topped up the fuel tank, so there's about a quarter of a tank of fuel in there now. So I'm just going to pick up where I left off and just see if any fuel comes out here, just to confirm that we've got no blockages, since I've already got this taken apart. And if there's no blockages, I'll reassemble this and we'll give it another test now that it's got some fuel in it. Yeah, so fuel's, don't know if you could just see that, but fuel has just dribbled out there. I've just turned off the tap again because I don't want to waste any. Since fuel's expensive these days, So let's get that reconnected. Okay, I'm going to quickly reinstall the pull starter and try and start it, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's back together. So I'm going to turn on the fuel tap and we'll give it another test. Engine switch is on. I guess the choke is on that way. Assuming that's off, that's on. So let's see what happens. Okay, so we're not getting any joy, and I've just noticed it looks like the fuel is leaking out there, so that's not ideal. Let me see if I've got some kitchen roll or something. Got some dirty kitchen roll. I'm just going to try the choke lever in the other position and see what happens. Although I'd be very surprised if that's on and that's off. Yeah, it's nothing. No sign of any life. So I think what I'll do is very quickly, just going to turn that off, and very quickly have a look at the spark plug, just to see if there's any sign of fuel on the spark plug, which will give us an idea of whether we've got a fueling issue or an ignition problem. Okay, so the spark plug looks dry and pretty well caked up, so I think the next avenue of investigation will be to take the carburettor off and just have a look to make sure that it's not gummed up or anything, because I know this generator hasn't been used for a while. So yeah, that might be stopping the fuel from getting into the cylinder. I think this spark plug also looks like it may have seen better days, but for the purposes of getting the thing running, I think I might just try cleaning this up, and in the meantime I might order a new one. Let's take a look at the carburettor next and see if giving that a clean improves things or not. One other thing I could do is just confirm that we've got a spark. So if I reassemble this and use a crocodile clip or similar lead, I should be able to check whether we've got any spark. I would say you've got to be a bit careful doing this, because of course as fuel vapour comes out of the spark plug hole, you can end up igniting it with a spark plug, which is not quite ideal, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Okay, so I've got the spark plug connected up to the ignition lead, and then it's earthed via this jump lead from the body of the spark plug down to one of the feet of the generator, which seems to be metal. So let's now pull the starter a couple of times and see if we get a spark. So as you can see, we are getting a spark there, so I don't think that the problem we've got is an ignition problem. I think it's more of a fueling issue. So yeah, so I think the next thing I'm going to check is the carburettor. So I'll take the carburettor off and take it apart, give it a clean, and see if there's any sign of any diaphragms that have ruptured or any splits in any of the gaskets or anything like that. Right, so it looks like I'm going to start with taking off this cover, which I'm guessing is the air filter cover, and see what access we've got to the carburettor at that point. Okay, so that's the actual air intake. We've got the filter element here by the look of it. So I'm just gonna, looks like this insert comes out, so I'm gonna undo these two screws and this one over here, and then see what comes free. These two screws may actually hold the carburettor on as well. Depends how long they are. Yeah, they seem quite long, so I think, yeah, looks like these are actually holding the carburettor on. So hopefully we should be able to remove the whole thing fairly easily. It's a nice tight screw there, so I might try a flathead. Now, tell you what, I'm going to have to get my impact driver on that one, I think. That's got it. Okay, so it seems like this whole front panel's come loose now, so that's okay. That should give us good access to the carburettor. But I'm guessing this is, yeah, all the electrical connections are kind of on the back of here as well, so just need to be mindful of that. Yeah, so we can now see, if I just zoom in, so we can now see that butterfly valve in there is the choke. So with the lever in this position, that's open, that's the choke off. And with the lever in that position, the choke's on. So that's as I thought it would be, based on the diagram and the position of the lever on the front panel there. So that's fine. So the two screws I've just removed haven't. Oh, actually, yes. There we go. So there's a throttle linkage and a spring. So I'm just going to be very careful not to damage that. Okay, so just unhook the spring. And I'll disconnect the fuel line. So this clamp doesn't really feel like it's doing very much at all. Make sure the fuel tap's off, which it is, yeah. We might still get a little dribble, so I'm just going to put a pot underneath just in case. And that's the carburettor removed. So I'm going to give the exterior a little bit of a clean up, just to try and avoid introducing dirt inside once I open it up. So I'm just going to kind of wipe off the dirt and dust using a bit of kitchen roll. Right, let's tip the thing upside down and see what happens. Should get some fuel dribble out, I think. A little bit. Okay, a bit more if you shake it. There we go. Rather drain that out in a controlled way rather than spilling it everywhere, so that's good. Okay, so that's the worst of the muck from the outside of the carburettor. I think the first thing I'm going to do is remove this part at the bottom, which I'm guessing is the bowl or float chamber. So let's remove this nut on the bottom. Looks like it's a 10mm. It's not very tight. And there's our float chamber with our float. You can see there's a little dribble of fuel left in there, so I'm just going to tip that into the pot over there. I can't see anything obviously wrong with that. The choke lever feels a bit gritty, so that does suggest that there might be some dirt and grit inside. So I'm just going to grab the carburettor cleaner and we'll just give everything a little bit of a spray. That's made light work of the rest of the grit on the outside, so that's good. Now I'm just going to spray through the throat of the carburettor, kind of backwards if you like, so. So I'm holding the throttle open and with the choke open as well, just giving it a blast. going to spray some carburetor cleaner through the fuel inlet pipe, and also up through the centre here. And holding the float in the sort of up position, I'm just going to spray around here because I think that's where the fuel actually enters the float chamber. And by holding the float in the up position, obviously it's down here because I'm holding the thing upside down, that should like basically back flush any debris out of the carburetor. I would advise using this stuff in a well ventilated area because it does give off some fumes. So I've got the door to my garage open, and I may actually just go and open the front door as well. Alright, so I can actually disassemble this a little bit further. So I'm going to remove the float by just taking this little pin out here. So that should release this assembly. Put that pin down safely, and then should be able to just take this off. Might need to take this off as well. Not too sure what that actually does, but it looks like it's some kind of stop for I guess the needle or whatever it is that's in there. Okay, managed to get it off without removing that, so it's good. So this is the little needle that controls the fuel flow into the carburetor bowl. So I'm going to take that out and just have a look, make sure that's nice and clean. Okay, so the needle's just fallen out as I tipped up the carburetor. So now let's take a close look at this. I can't see anything obviously wrong with it. I'll just give it a clean, give the seat a clean as well. So the seat is the part that the needle seals against, and then put that part back together. So the seat is basically at the bottom of that hole there, so that's where the needle actually makes a seal. So I'm just going to back flush that through with some carb cleaner. I would advise wearing goggles for this because of course you do get a bit of splashback, and obviously it could end up in your eyes, which wouldn't be pleasant. Okay, so I've seen carb cleaner coming out of here, so I'm quite confident that that's not blocked, so that's good. So now I can just give the needle itself a little clean, so I'm just going to use a small piece of kitchen roll. Right, I'm going to pop the needle back into the hole, so it should just drop in like that, and I'm going to reinstall the float as well. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly put the carburetor back together as it is now, now that I've given it a bit of a clean, and get it reinstalled, and we'll see if it's made any difference. Annoyingly, this seal seems to have expanded slightly, so it's not quite sitting back in the groove. So I might have to replace that with an O-ring. So let me just grab my O-ring kit and see if I've got the right size. So this O-ring looks like the same diameter as the bowl. The question is, will it sit in that groove? Kind of. I think I'm just going to try and assemble it like that. No, I don't think that's going to work, to be honest. I think the O-ring's too thick. Yeah, unfortunately I don't think an O-ring's going to cut it, so I'm just going to have to try and persevere with the original seal, see if I can get it to sit back in the groove. Right, so just about managed to wrestle the seal back in place by kind of trapping it under the bowl and sort of pushing the bits that were poking out back inside. So hopefully it's sat properly. If not, then I'm sure we'll soon find out because we'll get some leaks. So I'm just reattaching the throttle linkage and the little spring. I think what I'll do for now is I'll just leave this cover off and just basically bolt the carburetor directly back in place, just for testing purposes. Just reconnect the fuel line. It's a very stiff pipe, this actually. Okay, I think we're back together enough for it to start. So I'm going to turn the fuel on. So we should now be filling up this bowl. The choke's on. I'm going to make sure that the ignition switch is set to run or on, and let's see what happens. Nothing so far. So I can just about see that we have got a bit of fuel bubbling there, so fuel's obviously getting to the carburettor, so that's not a problem. Let's turn the choke off. Oh. We got a pop. Yeah, we're getting a bit of a pop and some smoke out of the exhaust, so that's more than we were getting before. Let me put the, let me try again. Just going to turn the choke back on and well, it ran for a little bit, not too sure why it stopped. Let's try starting it again. Okay, well it now seems to start, so I'm going to put the cover back on, put the air filter back together, take it outside and give it another test outside because it's starting to film and gouge up with smoke. Obviously being a two-stroke, that's kind of expected, I suppose. Okay, so it's all back together, so I'm going to take it outside, start it up again and actually plug something into it just to confirm that we've got power at the socket here. So we've got a standard 3-pin UK socket there, so hopefully we should be able to get some power out of it. Okay, so it's an 850 watt generator, so I've plugged in my I think 700 watt leaf blower, so it should in theory be able to power that. It does say rated power is 650 watts, so it might not like powering that, but we'll just see what happens. Or if it struggles or the circuit breaker trips, then I'll just find something that's a little bit lower wattage. Okay, so it works, it powers the leaf blower. Okay, so as we've seen, the generator now works. So all it seemed to need was a bit of a clean up on the carburettor. So nice and easy fix, didn't cost any money. I think it probably still could benefit from a service, so perhaps a new spark plug, and I probably should change that gasket as well between the carburettor and the crankcase. So I'll probably get some gasket material ordered because it'd be useful to have on hand anyway, and then I can basically make my own gaskets as and when required. So yeah, if you have a small generator that won't start or is very difficult to start, or any other small engine, a good place to start is probably with the carburettor and giving it a clean. Obviously that's after confirming that you've got a spark, because I think that's probably the easiest place to start really, is to make sure you've got a spark at the spark plug and then move on to the fuel system. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video guys. If you found it useful or interesting or both, then please give the video a thumbs up, and to make sure you don't miss out on my future uploads, then please subscribe, and thanks for watching. Have a nice day.